Hello inmates, and welcome to the cellblock Scorch week 248B. This is Bones, and I'm recording as the winner of this week's Scorch. This week's prompt was given by Octo, and it was 1 arrow shy of disaster. And I don't have much to say about this beforehand, so I'll just jump into it, and we'll talk after. This piece is simply called 1 arrow shy of disaster. Red lights flashed in the corridors, the walls and floor alike shaking as a far too calm voice over the intercom announced, "Engines 5 and 6 are non-functional. Prepare for emergency landing." People rushed back and forth, running between consoles and furiously pressing buttons, and shouting status and instructions to others. Amidst the flurry of movement on the bridge, 2 people remained immobile. One sitting casually on an elevated chair, one leg hooked over the arm and leaning on the other, rocking but unbothered by the disruption, and the other standing behind them, still as the grave despite it. "I've always hated the computer's voice," the standing woman stated, as if the chaos surrounding her was all part of the status quo. She continued looking directly forward at the screen, showing the mountain range they were passing over, as if she couldn't care less if someone responded at all. "Well," the sitting captain responded anyway, "you could always record everything over in your voice." Their grins suggested how much they knew she would hate this plan. "Then you can infuse the red alerts with sufficient panic for your tastes." "Actually, they're not grating enough," she responded promptly. "I believe you would be a better candidate." "Well, as captain," they smirked, only for something to catch their attention on the other side of the bridge. In an instant, their face fell stern, and they whipped to look at someone across the bridge. "Keep that gauge steady, Hearthright. We have 12 engines." The young crew member, who had been more than a little panicked, had begun preparing for descent as the computer instructed, instead of waiting for the captain's order. Seeing the kid jolt guiltily and return the dials to their proper positions, they turned back to the woman with a playful grin and continued as if they hadn't been interrupted. "You've got to have a grating voice if anyone's going to listen to you." "Engine 8 is non-functional. Prepare for emergency landing." "Qatar," she snapped at an aged man directly in front of the screen. "Cause." "Still searching," he replied, one of the only others on the bridge who hadn't started sweating at this point. He moved with calm purpose, speedy, but not rushed. "I have it narrowed down to this mountain." He flicked a hand, and the screen view shifted to show a closer shot of a mountain they were passing on their left, the side where the engines were going out. There was a flash on the screen, too fast and small for anyone to notice more than subconsciously, before the airship shook once more with steadily more tumultuous tremors. "Engine 10 is non-functional. Prepare for emergency landing." "Qatar," the captain frowned, pushing up to their elbows in the first step to actually sitting properly. 2 engines were no problem. 3 to 4 would make the ride a little bit less smooth. 5 was admissible. But if 6 engines were taken out, then they really would have a problem on their hands. "Found her, Captain," Qatar reported before they could get further than that. No one wanted to see what would happen if they were actually sitting correctly, flicking his hand again and zooming the picture in. Sure enough, upon closer inspection, there was a woman hiding among the rocks. She was crouched in a shadow where she naturally blended in, but with a bit of image enhancement, it was clear that she was holding a bow, reaching to the quiver on her back for another arrow even as they watched. "Ugh, The captain rolled their eyes, leaning back once again. Iraji again. She is persistent, Second noted blandly, unperturbed as they watched her pull back and finally release another arrow. Captain! Yelped the woman at the weapons array as the bridge shook once more. Your orders! She already had a lock on Iraji and was ready to fire. Relax. The captain waved a dismissive hand. Keep flying. She can't do anything more today. And after all, it would be horribly short-sighted of them to take out such a critical piece before it was time, just because of a little annoyance like this. Captain? Echoed several of the others with increasing panic as they watched the woman on the monitor reach back for another arrow, to take out the engine that would make all the difference. The second quirked an eyebrow that immediately had them all quieting down, continuing on as if nothing was amiss while simultaneously keeping stressful eyes on the screen. But on the ground, and reflected in the monitor, Iraji stuttered in her movement. Rather than pulling back with an arrow in one fluid motion, as she had done previously, she groped aimlessly behind her for several moments, face pinching in frustration. She let out a roar that was unheard by the onlookers on the bridge, but the way her face twisted was undeniable, as she fisted her hand and brought it crashing down on a rock that crumbled under the onslaught. The underlings on the bridge let out a collective sigh of relief. The captain watched her bludgeon the ground for a few long seconds, eyes skimming over her twisted expression and splitting knuckles with an amused smirk. With a bored flick of the wrist, they returned the monitor to wide view and settled back to smirk at their second. They nodded vaguely towards the crew, and Second could almost hear them say, "If you'd like to spare us all my grating voice." She did. "Down to yellow status," she ordered. "We arrive at Grenfall in 4 hours."
Hey, it's Octo again with Judge Comments. I've gotten to be really active these last weeks, which is fun. I ended up picking Bones' piece because, first of all, it was really funny. Okay, like this inherently hilarious that this super angry person is just on the surface of a planet taking literal pot shots at a spaceship and low-key winning, okay? The only reason they're not having a problem is because she ran out of arrows, and I think that is legendary. Also, I really liked the byplay between the captain and the first mate. It was cute. Very funny. And this one actually won out over a couple of the other pieces, one of which was just really funny, and one of which was really intense story-wise. Well, we had two intense story-wise ones. One in a more mythical sense and one in a more fairy tale sense. I would suggest going to read them. They're all great, but this one won specifically because it combined kind of sort of a off-the-wall humor with the fact that this is a snapshot of a bigger world. Like, why do we need to keep this woman alive? Who knows? But I am convinced that it is important, and it will probably make her super mad when it eventually comes to pass. And I kind of am on her side for shooting arrows at this person. Don't know what to tell you about that. But it was great. I enjoyed it. Bones is always a treat to read. I really like their world building and characterization stuff. It's fun. Octo out.
And that's all, folks. I don't know what's going on with this world, really. It's standalone, and I haven't put any thought into what else is happening. I didn't know what I was writing until halfway through. Pretty sure the thought process went, okay, 1 arrow shy of disaster, so we're probably shooting something, and we're doing some damage with every blow, but we're 1 short of being critical. And then I was like, okay, what about an aircraft? They can lose some engines. So let's make a truly massive one, and some crazy person is using magic arrows to destroy the engines one by one, and they're 1 short to make the thing come crashing down. And if you weren't quite sure, the captain and them are definitely the evil ones in this situation. I don't know what they're doing, but Iraji is definitely in the right for trying to stop them. I do really like this piece. It's fun, but I was shocked when I won this week. You know, usually when I read through the pieces, I'm like, okay, good showing everyone, who knows who will win. This week, when I read Styx's submission, it didn't even occur to me that anyone else could win. It haunts me. It's amazing. And if you only pay for the Patreon one time just to read Styx's submission for this prompt, I would consider it money well spent. And then Octa was like, Bones wins. And I was like, what? But of course, you know, it's the vibe. Mine was a funny, chill story, while Styx wrote an absolutely gut-wrenching story, and the judge was feeling fanciful. Still, insane to me. I'm like, I would never have chosen anyone but Styx. This is crazy. Let's see. Anyway, the prompt I gave for the next week was... Oh, I like this one. This is just something that came to me one day that I desperately want to use as a line in one of my books, because it feels like such a good, like, establishing character line. So the prompt is, the merciful, the foolish, and the dead are all the same. And I just think it's such a good thing to have someone say to establish just like how jaded or how evil or like how something they are, you know, like a character says this and you know something about them, and it could be a lot of different things. So that's why I prompted it, and I was like, I'm so excited to see what type of people like my cohorts decide would say this line. Yeah. In other news, I have a new favorite listener, but don't tell my parents, who also listen to this podcast. Shh, it's a secret. Shout out to Kenefactor, who heard we liked Otome games, and for April Fools sent us an Otome-ish game of his own creation, where we got to like fight Nazis with Ghost from Call of Duty and two other people that are like more fanish creations, and we were cackling the whole time. And if any of you ever want to bring me personally joy, I do take bribes in the form of literally anything. I'm not picky, and I will always give a shout out, because wow, this game took so much effort to make for a silly joke, and it was such a delightful play. We had an amazing time. Yeah, that's all I had to say. So, thanks all for listening, and keep that fire burning. The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. Links to all our projects, including Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Patreon, and Ko-Fi, can be found on our Linktree, posted in each episode description. Follow us on Tumblr or Instagram to see the prompt of the day before the episode drops, and a quote from each Scorch the day after. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon. There, you can access the Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to our embers as well.